I think it's important to really start talking about it and to smash the secrecy around it.
Kevin, I was going to say it's nice to meet you, but we already know each other, don't we?
Yes.
We grew up in similar households in the same part of Bristol at the same time, both of us struggling but not knowing it. So what happened to you?
What happened to me when I was about 7 years old, my parents wanted or needed financially, I think, to take in a lodger to help with money. This was 1967, I was 7 years old, and this guy moved in.
I think possibly the one of the worst things about that is it happened in your home. As with me, my abuse was my brother, and it happened in my home, which is where you're meant to feel safe, and by people that are meant to be caring for you.
I didn't tell my parents at the time. I mean, he, the lodger, told me not to, of course. Told me that it was a secret, and told me that my parents would be very angry if they found out. I didn't know to what extent I would be blamed.
Why do you think they would blame you? You know, and I know, that we were children, and we were and still are and will always be blameless, but we blame ourselves at the time.
I didn't know what the consequences would be of telling.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I would get support. And that carries on right away through,
Yeah.
you know, when I was 57 and reported it, I still thought, will I actually get any support?
And through those decades, what was your life like?
I was functioning, you know, I was going to work and working very well. I was in a relationship, I'd bought a house, all the things in life that
Ticking
we
all the boxes.
considered to be a
Yeah,
success. I was doing them all, and nobody would have thought anything was wrong. And inside I was completely and utterly mad.
I think this is one of the myths people have about child sexual abuse, is because quite often you function. In fact, you could be highly functioning, and people look at you and they judge you on what they see, and that kind of reinforces to you that well, I can't be that bad, don't you? Because you do minimise it yourself. So what made you finally tell your mum in 2017? What was the situation around that?
Well, the journey started a bit before then. I don't know how I knew the name Survivors UK, which is a charity for men who have been sexually abused at any time in their life. I picked up the phone and phoned their helpline and said, I'm a total mess. I was sexually abused as a child, and I think they might be connected. Sometime later, I decided to tell my mum.
Were you worried about the impact on the family by reporting it?
My concern was that my mother would be utterly shamed that people would find out that this had been happening in our house, in our family. So I just thought, what do I do next? And I thought, well, maybe I'll tell the police and see if they can do anything. So I picked up the phone one Sunday morning and dialed whatever the non-emergency number is. And I was told I would get a phone call from Avon and Somerset, whenever, I'm not sure when they said, you know, a week or so, in the next week. And I took a phone call from, I think it was a detective constable at the time called Lawrence Savage, who said that he would be dealing with the case, that he was going on holiday next day for, I think, for a week or 2 weeks, but that he didn't want to go away without firstly calling me and just introducing himself and having a chat.
How did that make you feel when he said that?
It made me feel important to somebody.
somebody cares.
It made me feel, yes.
Somebody's listening.
Very much so. There was real caring there. The very fact that he wanted to just make the phone call before he went on holiday, didn't want me sitting around for a week or two, was very important. And I felt very safe. I trusted him. The
thing that really hit me when we had the initial conversation about our initial report to the police was that I'm going on holiday and I don't want you to be, wait for 2 weeks. But you said that he managed your expectations, but that he would do his best for you, and that's all you can ask,
yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and that he would they would take it as far as they could.
Yeah,
fine.
That's all you want, isn't it?
I can't ask for anything more than that. I spoke to an ISVA before I ever went to the police. I met up with him quite a few times, and he led me through, what was likely to happen during a police, what would happen once I'd reported to the police. And that was very, very helpful. So you can spend quite a bit of time talking to an ISVA, and then decide, I will or I won't report to the police.
No, that's interesting.
The status quo hadn't been working. Keeping it a secret had not been working at all, because I was so unhappy. I was so anxious, and really, for me then, I thought, how many years have I got left? Maybe 20 years, and I can either carry on doing exactly what I've always done, or I can, do a 180-degree turn and just say I'm going to do it differently.
When you contacted me, you said, I do remember things that people tell me. You've waived your anonymity with vigour. You wrote to me.
Did I? Okay.
Yes.
You remember what I do. Better than I do.
And so, but that must have already been in your head to do that. Why? Because why did you do it? Because I was terrified of going into that dark room again. After the trial, everyone's gone home, the barristers have had their cup of tea and moved on to the next case, and you're yesterday's chip paper. I've still got to live my life, as we talked about earlier. I knew that if I didn't do this, the past would come back. I would end up reverting back to my old coping strategies and being scared and ashamed and feel self-blame, and my brother would reinvent himself and get on with his life, and I couldn't live like that anymore. So that was my driver to do that, was to point the shame where it should be, not at me, whereas I would have destroyed myself if I hadn't done this. What made you do it?
Well, today is the first day that I've done it. So this is the beginning. I think it's important to really start talking about it and to smash the secrecy around it. It's it is a crime that depends on secrecy to allow the person to get away with it and to live their life for 50 years, having got away with it.
The first time I signed the waiver was in this very room, and I spoke to family. I said, "Am I missing something here? What can go wrong? There must be." To me, it was screaming at me. When my barrister assumed that I would want anonymity, I felt ashamed when she said that, and I told her that. I said, "What about anonymity?" And she said, "Well, don't worry, nobody will ever know who you are." I felt so sick inside that, well, that's what everyone wants, that's what I've been doing, and it hasn't really got me very far. But I said, "You misunderstand me. I want to." Oh, do you? And the fact you're surprised, it made me feel ashamed again, because it's like I shouldn't feel like that, because I should be. It's his dirty little secret. And I haven't looked back, and I'm buoyed along now, because every time I've done it, and I've spoken to various people from the press and done various things, survivors have contacted me and said, I can't believe you're and stuff that you've said today, I've heard other people talk about, and they can't believe that it's happened to somebody else. They just, you do, don't you? You live in this black bubble that it's just you. And you will shine light on people from what you've said today. And that is another piece of the justice that you don't see on the wrong end of the trial or the wrong end of the CPS decision.
You know, I just hope that anybody who watches it who has told nobody, you know, can see you sitting here and me sitting here and realise that, you know, they're not alone. It happens, and you can make progress.